Hello, everyone. Welcome to Timeless Flux and to yet another reading. If you're new to the channel, please feel very, very welcome to this community. And if you have already been here for any other of my videos, then I hope you feel welcomed back. Now, this I believe is going to be a very different and special reading for me because it is very based in the creation of this setting you see here. As I was preparing to record the reading, which is also being recorded at a time that I normally do not record readings. It's early morning, mid-morning, really. So in advance, I would like to apologize if you hear any kind of sound you normally do not hear. I hope it doesn't get in the way of our communication. But I was really, really called to do the reading this morning. And I didn't really know what it was going to be about. I just knew that I had to somehow include all of these elements you see here. So the first thing that came to my mind was using this beautiful flower here that is, I'm separating it. I've collected it like 2 days ago. It really called my attention because it was almost dropping from the tree. I live in an island and it's springtime here. It's really, really beautiful. It's luxurious, really. It's an island in Rio de Janeiro. If you haven't watched any of my previous readings, it's a not a district, but a neighborhood from Rio de Janeiro in the Guanabara Bay, and it's I believe 16 kilometers inside Guanabara Bay, in inner Guanabara Bay. So it's a little bit distant from the hush of Rio de Janeiro city. And it's luxurious spring right here. There are a lot of parks, etc. This specific flower branch called my attention, and it was almost dropping from the tree, and I asked for permission to collect it and bring it to my house. Now I was separating it to get it dry because I think it has special properties, magical properties I wanted to use for my spells. And then I was drawn to bring it to the scenario of a reading. I don't know why. And then I started preparing the reading like that. I didn't know what it was going to be about. And as I saw its shades of gray, its shades of purple, then I was called to use this particular piece of amethyst that is beautiful, as you see, and has been accompanying me since the very beginning of my spiritual journey. Well, not the beginning of my spiritual journey, which actually started when I was like 12, 13 years old, but my most recent spiritual developments 4 or 5 years ago. And it really talks to me about facing challenges, facing resistance with bravery and courage, and transmuting energies, as the color purple normally refers to. And I was called to use it. I asked for the permission to use it, so it's going to assist us. And then I was also called to bring this beautiful Equatorian ashtray, which was a gift of a friend who received me in her country, in Ecuador, and in Quito, which is the capital of Ecuador. And it has these beautiful engravings here, which are Aztec engravings that talk about, it's an analogy and a representation of also illumination, and it's very earthy and grounded, and it's copper based, right? It's a kind of copper compound here used in this ashtray. And then to use Palo Santo instead of my most normal, my regular incense usage. And I was used to bring this candle, which is a composite. You see all these colors are a composite of different aromatic boxes. So really right now, the smell here, the aroma is really rich. And we have purple, we have rich red, we have green, right? Emerald green. we have white, and the aroma is amazing. So with all of this composition going on here, and I still didn't know what the reading was going to be about. I was also called to use Barbieri zodiac oracle cards, and then it was when it all came to sense, and when it all made sense in my mind, I realized that we were going to talk about the balance, the finding the balance between among the elements in our lives, because I distinctly heard that I should use the element cards in this oracle to give you like a starting point for a reading on how to balance the different elements, air, fire, earth, and water, in your current situation, which element maybe is predominant and which element might be lacking, and the reasons for that, if the guides and spirit wants to talk about that, and possible activities, possible ceremonies and spells and attitudes, rituals. I don't know what's coming up, but well, anything that we could do really that could maybe tune us more into the elements and rebalance them in our lives. And then as I set the whole scenario here, I understood why this reading is important, at least in the time it's being recorded. Today is November the 18th, so we're getting closer and closer to Sagittarius season. I have a video specifically on swift, decisive, key actions one can take during Sagittarius season to wrap up the year in style, as I said. But if you want to check it out, please be my guest. But I understand that if we're talking about a moment in which Sagittarius is going to launch its very last, because Sagittarius only has one arrow, right? So if we're talking about a moment of the year in which we are wrapping up and Sagittarius is going to launch through its very last arrow, it's the last fire of the year. It's a moment of excitement, of wrapping up, but it's also a moment in which a lot of us might be feeling tired. It's the last straw in a marathon, right? For most of us who are following the Western calendar, right? That ends up in the 31st of December, and not the astrological calendar that wraps up in Pisces season next year. So right now, as this reading is being recorded, it makes huge sense to think about how the elements are balanced within us in our physical, emotional, and more subtle, and even more subtle bodies, like the mental body and higher expressions of our beings. And it may be a little bit difficult to recognize the patterns, the indicators, the signs our intuition is trying to bring regarding what we can do in terms of maintenance of this balance, since we are also trying to cope with the many practical matters and activities we need to do before finishing the year up. So I hope this reading can be useful, because it's actually a self-care reading, considering the elements, right? It I think intends to be kind of monitoring reading to let you know what you can do to keep your elements in shape, or the dosage of attention you're putting into each of the elements in its various manifestations, in shape and in balance and in equilibrium. And I'm not going to use the word perfect equilibrium, because such a thing does not exist in the material world, and blessed be that it doesn't. Okay, so we basically have four options, and the idea, because we have four elements at least, four visible elements here in the material world, and I want you to choose based on, of course, as I always say, use this reading any way you want. Use your intuition. You know what serves you. You know what's good for you. You are the oracle in the end. But a suggestion is to think about, to consider, to meditate on elements you already know are sending you signs coming to your life as an important presence, or as something that you believe is already lacking, or as something that you're trying to manifest more in your life based on your own associations. Air is normally associated with thoughts, with the abstract and the conceptual part of any project. Fire is also is normally associated with initiative, with starting new things, and with the first drive, with whatever drives us in passion. Earth is normally associated to the material aspects of any project and to grounding and whatever is considered to be more solid. And water is normally associated with emotions, right? And to the more emotional and also transmutable aspects of our energies. So we can have as many associations between these elements as we want. So maybe you also want to watch more than one pile because of a certain configuration you are experimenting in your life right now, or maybe you want to watch all of the piles because you want to see if there are specific messages that resonate with you in each of the piles. But as a first proposition, the idea here is to choose based on what you think would be in need of work right now, so that you could focus on balancing it, or bringing it back to your life, or learning how to enhance a certain presence, encourage, invite a certain presence. And certainly your intention and intuition is also a part of this co-creation process we are constructing here. And I would also like to say that I don't know what's going to show up in any of the piles. So we may have some interesting plot twists here, in which in the pile of air, and we are talking about the need to enhance the presence of this element. And in the pile for water, we are talking about an excess of this element. So I really don't know what message Spirit's going to convey. I think this is part of the serendipity we are trying to invite when we work with this kind of pick a card reading, okay? So I'll give you some moments to just meditate on the image. Cards are going to be shuffled as we go. So please select the pile or piles you believe talk to you a little bit more. And today we're going to work with this beautiful tarot deck, the Prism Tarot. And I love this inscription here. Stay magic as AF. I simply love this tarot. So if you have already chosen your option, I am going to start with the readings. And I believe I am going to move these cards just a little bit to the side here, so that we can focus on the cards you've chosen. Okay, so if you've chosen this card here and the air element, this is your reading for how to balance the four elements in your life right now. Okay, as I was saying in the introduction, when I explained the concept behind this reading and the inspiration that led me to it, I believe if you've chosen this element, there is a reason for that. You either believe this is your main element, you may have this element in your chart as you may have an inclination to believe that it is missing, or that it is your favorite element, is the element you operate most on. Maybe you work with air magic, maybe you work in occupations related to highly abstract concepts, maybe you are understood as a person who has a certain it makes it, which is easy, makes it easy for other people to understand abstractions, conceptualizations. So you could be a teacher, you could be a writer, you could be a designer, you could be someone who foresees, previews, projects the world and whatever we see materialized in this world with all of the beautiful consequences that come with it. Okay, normally when we talk about consequences, and I think consequence is a word that's very important for people who are related with the air element. I am a person who's very related and works a lot with air magic and with the air element, so I can talk about it freely. I'm in my place of speech, which is a concept coined by Brazilian researcher Jamila Ribeiro. Place of speech, yeah. So I can talk about it because a part of my magical experience, I work with air magic. So when we talk about consequences, in layman's term, for lack of a better expression, it tends to be highly negativized, right? It sounds negative. It has a negative connotation to it, like consequences. But I think that part of the mission for those of us who are in tune with the air element and work in occupations in which the air element is important and is providing its services of projection, of planning, of conceptualization, of investigation, and foresight, is to reframe the word consequence as something positive related to responsibility, in the sense, well, I'm going to leave this card like that, in the sense that responsibility is an ability to respond and not something heavy as in guilt, not a light way of saying guilt as most people tend to consider the word consequence, right? Okay, so we have 4 cards here to start, and we have a card that decidedly wanted to stay like that, you see? So I am understanding that this is going to be our conclusion, and I feel like I need to explore this card a little bit more because this is going to be important for us here. Okay, so in the air element card, we have this image here, and I am immediately drawn to the colors that are most associated with this element. And so we have the shades of blue, the shades of purple, we have some shades of gray, but it's like bluish gray, etc. But mostly we have a configuration in which from the center of a blue that's almost indigo blue, which is the color of the divine virtue, of divine power, okay? we then have different shades of lighter blue um, to this grayish blue that to me talk about how we can go from divine power, which is the power we have over our own consciousness and over ourselves, because there's no true power. We have no true power over other people. We only have power over ourselves, and that's a lot. And there's no true power over the external world that does not start at the core of ourselves. So if this representation here is like coming from this divine power, the purest form of representation of this divine power, to the more materialistic and maybe dense representations of power that creates the illusion that we could manipulate, influence whatever or whomever is external to us with the sheer strength of our will. That's not true. That's an illusion. So I want to talk a little bit about that. In the material world, I believe I'm talking about here. I believe I'm talking about here in your case an imbalance of the air element. Oh, I don't know if you can see this card on top, so I'm going to move all of my scenario here a little bit. I hope so that you can see it better, but then I'll show it to you in a moment, okay? I'm sorry about that, but I explained in the introduction why this scenario is so important for this reading. All these elements here are working with me right now, and maybe they're going to talk to us in a bit. I believe that for you, we are talking about an imbalance of the air element related to a belief that it is possible to influence, manipulate other people if your mind, or whatever you're calling mind, is strong enough. And I feel with the other cards here that you don't want to do that. That at your core, because you have such a strong connection with the air element and the true essence of the air element, which is divine power, which is the ability to get to know yourself and to have power over your own consciousness and your own spiritual development. You don't want to do that. You don't want to manipulate. But that's such a sort of social and peer pressure to do that you sometimes question whether your most honest knowledge is true or not. You question yourself. You question what you know about air magic. You question what you know about your beliefs, what you feel in your bones, in your cells, in your core, in your every aspect of your being such a strong air magic practitioner. I'm sorry if you don't see yourself in these terms, but I'm telling you, if you resonate with this specific reading, you are someone who's highly connected with the air element, but there is an imbalance based on how sometimes you feel you should be influencing, manipulating, because there's nothing more to it, and that's the true way to get to power. So once again, I'm not saying that you want to do it. I'm just saying it's more of a vibe like everybody's doing it. So maybe it's almost an excess of humility. It's an excess. You understand the power of humility, in the sense, which is at the core of this divine power virtue. You understand that a humble person knows there's no power over other people, only power over ourselves and our consciousness. And this is being humble. And this is true strength, is working on ourselves. And this is the base of magic. We work on ourselves, and then we see everything around us change. We see miracles. We are the co-creators of our own miracles. You understand that? But then sometimes we're this with this level of humility, being humble that way. Then we start questioning when we hear things like, yeah, you should be an influencer. I'm going to give a practical example. You work on social media, and then everybody has these schemes and this pre-programmed ways of getting more followers, or these techniques that you should use, the way you organize your discourse, the way you create your texts, maybe calendars of posting. I'm not saying that these things are negative in themselves, because I don't believe in negative things by themselves. Everything is a tool, and it depends on the intention you use the tool for. But you see all of those people, you work on social media, and you see all of these people saying, you should use this tool. This is the only tool that's going to lead you to success, because then you are going to influence more people. You are going to, this is the only way to succeed if you're working with content creation, if you're working with marketing, if you're working with whatever you're working on social media, if you're trying to sell a product. And then you start questioning what you already know it's true, because at the base of some of these propositions, or at the base of the discourse of people trying to sell you these propositions, you can see that there's something that's not matching your own ideals, which is, the only true power I have is power over myself. It's not even that you're judging these people, it's just that the concept behind some of these propositions is not for you. But it makes you question yourself. Shouldn't I be trying to influence others more? Shouldn't I be trying to... Is manipulation that bad? Is a sentence that came to me. If I have an important content to share, even if the content is in itself, there's no power over anyone, a manipulation is not a good thing. So I want to share this content so that more people know it's a positive content. Does it really matter what ways I'm going to use it, or with what intention I'm going to put it out there, if the content in itself is good? And then you kind of know that there's no such a thing as content in itself. So I'm giving an example that's familiar to me, because I work in social media. I'm not only a tarot reader, I work in social media also as a writer for my books in Portuguese here in Brazil, and other things. I also have a publishing house in Brazil. But this is familiar to me, but you can also apply it to many other situations. It's kind of, that manipulation, you can apply it to situations that are not related to your professional environment. You know that manipulating, whenever you cross that barrier of trying, whenever you think, oh, okay, it doesn't matter, that my content is good, or whatever I want to achieve is good, or my concept is good, because we're talking about the element, the air element here. Shouldn't I be trying to reach more people no matter the means? No matter the means is not a good way of conceptualizing the methodology. It's not a good methodology. It matters. But then sometimes there's an imbalance produced by the content with other people, other divinely expressions of spirit in the shape of human beings that work with different elements and that see things differently. And of course, we are all interdependent here. So of course, these opinions, these ways of seeing the world would affect you. But then I think the main message here with these other cards that we're going to talk about in a second is that in order to keep your balance, You will need to invite other elements to your life, because this is what the reading is about. And you will need to kind of protect your work with the air element by resorting to grounding and resorting to, first you need to identify that since you're so open to air influence, sometimes you even question the way you understand your own type of air magic. Okay, since you influence, because there's a difference between trying to influence and being a natural influencer. You know, there's a difference between being someone who's beaming and radiating divine virtue so that people have the opportunity of witnessing that and doing whatever they want with that, and actually trying to manipulate and influence. There's a difference between doing your work, doing your best work, having your best attitudes, creating concepts that work for the good of yourself and humanity and putting them out there at service, but not imposing them on people, and questioning whether you should impose them on people or not, and actually having a methodology to impose them on people, because then you're going to guarantee some kind of material benefit to yourself. These are all very different places, and you know that because you're very good at working with the concept, with the rationale behind your projects and whatever you do in the world. You are a projector. This is what air magic is all about. But then once you recognize this imbalance and where it's coming from, maybe you want to make a list. People who work with the air magic style, they are all about making lists and charts and diagrams, sometimes mental, sometimes in writing. Then you need to know how to balance things up. And I think these cards are, I've already seen here, they're talking about how to then work with with three other elements to balance these things up. Okay, so the first thing I see here is that when it comes to fire, you would then need, this is the apprentice of lightning. If I'm not mistaken, this is I forgot the name. This is not the knight. The valet of wands. Okay, the apprentice of lightning is adventure. Okay, so with the adventure card here, something that can bring fire to your life is not losing the sense of adventure, and it's also a key indicator. Whenever you get yourself considering that you should be doing more to get your message out there, but you don't know if this is only peer pressure or the influence of someone who's trying to manipulate, a CEO vibe, like I'm not doing enough, that's why I'm not growing, etc. That's not really connected to the best interest or the best conceptual view of your project. You are going to protect your air magic by tuning into a sense of adventure that is very fiery. What does it mean? You do something that is almost like child's play, but it's even more than that, something that would be a test drive for whatever you do, like coming back to the first moments of your initiatives just to remember what made them feel fun in the beginning stages. So no matter where you are in your projects, and they don't even have to be professional projects, whenever you feel like you feel this kind of imbalance, you actually program in your schedule to do something from the beginning stages of the project that was actually really fun. I'm going to put it like this so you can see better. That was actually really fun, and that gave the steps, its initial sparks, and the courage and the movement it needed once it started. You go back not to the drawing board, but to the first test drives. Okay, so I'm going to give another example, another social media related example. It's about coming back to the moment where you were thinking about how to express yourself in each and every post, choosing colors, because if you think this is fun, because for me it's fun, and then you go back and you rethink your colors and you rethink and you try to connect back to this sense of adventure. And if you think this is too small because you're too advanced process, then it's about finding some activity that is going to bring the sparkle back. Maybe depending on the level of growth you are in your project, this is going to be about talking to people from different countries. This is going to that do the same thing you do. This is going to be traveling, but traveling to a place in which you can learn something new about your project. Let's say this is not a professional project. This is something about your family or related to your family or a romantic relationship. You know that there are a lot of things that you want for the future of your family and your relationship that are being built now, but you start feeling a little bit stagnant. You look around and there are friends telling you you should be doing more for your family, you should be doing more for your project. And it starts in creating this imbalance, like you should be more. Because I think at the core of this imbalance here, there's a kind of a lust and a negativized ambition that makes you want more and brings you to this energy of there's not enough. It's a lack energy that makes you want to take from other people. Maybe it's an energy of I'm missing out. It's very related to that FOMO syndrome people talk about, the fear of missing out. So imagine this is a romantic relationship, and or maybe this is related to the way you want to see your family grow. You see that your family is growing. You're operating your air magic there. You're keeping everything in balance. You see that you're projecting a bright future for your family, and then you hear something, you read something online, you listen to friends, and suddenly it feels like it's not enough. I'm not seeing things clearly, and you kind of get drained. You would need to go back in terms of the fire element to the place where it all started. So the first meetings you had with your partner to create this family, or multiple partners, the first time you saw your children, or when your children were born, depending on whether you adopted them or not. When you, I don't know, when you rescued your pets, something like that, and then maybe you can actually plan and schedule a day that honors those first moments to recover this spark. Or maybe depending on the level of growth you can also think about activities of expansion of the spark, traveling with your family to a place that people these people involved with you in the family, or the person, your partner involved in the romantic relationship, always wanted to go. There's a cute tale I heard about this from my Heiki teacher. He said before, he actually today lives in the same island as I do, but he said that he always wanted to live in this island, but due to professional issues, he couldn't, and his wife couldn't either. But they always talked about living here as the name of the island is Paquetá, and they always talked about living here as the Paquetá project, with lots of fondness and tenderness in their hearts, and it was palpable. It was like this kind of air magic in which you're conceptualizing together. Every time you talk about the possibility of they talked about the possibility of living in Paquetá. They were doing this. They were infusing this possibility with lots of love and tenderness. And now they live in Paquetá. So this card adventure here is talking about regaining the spark through some sort of very practical activity that brings you back to basics through action. Something they did, for example, was to visit the island even before, long before they could come to actually live here, and have a wonderful day. It's as simple as that, because this is kind of rekindling the Paquetá project and reminding them of how important it is to infuse it with all of these beautiful projections, because it's actually going to be possible one day. And if it's not, it's something positive that may turn into maybe living in another island, or creating another scenario that's very similar, and that's then going to inherit everything that they put into this specific contextualization. So this is for the fire element. Now, it's interesting that I have the water element here, and that's why I know that this card should be read as the earth element. And for the earth element, I do not have an immediately earth related card. I have anxiety in reverse, represented here by the 9 of clouds in reverse, which is the 9 of swords in reverse. So this is a very practical piece of advice, which may or may not be easy to follow. They're basically saying you need to sleep more. You may be facing, you may be dealing with anxiety, which would be normal in the situation, because if you're dealing with this, I'm going to oversimplify here, imbalance that tastes like FOMO, like fear of missing out, which is actually an invasion, as I see here, of the opinions, actually the influence of other people, due to a lack of faith. They become a source of insecurity that then opens the door for other influences to kind of mess with your own conceptualization of things. If you're dealing with that, to be anxious and to deal with anxiety is something that's quite comprehensible, and it's quite understandable, and it's even logical, right? So I have the earth element here being represented not by something that you actually need to do with the earth, but by something that you need to do more so that it can even feel grounded, which is sleeping. But you might be facing trouble sleeping. So now I really want to see this card to see if it brings any other piece of advice. It's so amazing, because this is actually a card. This is actually a Pentacles card, you see, guys, and it's in reverse, okay? It's in reverse, and it's the Ace of Pentacles. It's the Ace of Gems in this beautiful tarot deck, and it's in reverse. You see that? So it's kind of like it wanted to be a secret, because it's related here. It's like you are not sleeping. You're missing opportunities to grow. You feel like doing more, trying to control, trying to maybe have more strategies, methodologies to control, which in the end, it's not real power, because the only power you have is divine power over yourself. This is an influence. You think that this is what's going to bring you more opportunities, but what's going to bring you more opportunities is relaxing on your anxiety, sleeping more, which is going to bring you enough grounding to see the opportunity that is already there. This is so perfect. It's scary. I have, you see, I have goosebumps all over my arms, which is a clear confirmation for me that that's the main message, okay? And this card wanted to stay occult, because it's kind of like you're thinking so much about the result when you get into this FOMO imbalance here, that then you don't sleep, and then you cannot access the result, okay? Okay, so for the water element, we have the Chariot card in reverse, and Chariot card is normally associated with Cancer, right? And this is momentum. Momentum is in reverse. Momentum in this specific tarot deck, and this is in reverse. If you're not sleeping enough, it's not possible to balance heart over head issues. It's very difficult actually to deal with the emotions generated by these incoming intrusive thoughts. And you could think about them, not trying to. I don't believe in my line of work that it's a good strategy to simply, I'm not going to think about this that way anymore. So I am going to exclude all of the thoughts related to manipulating people. And it's not like that. It doesn't work for me, at least. Like, I'm going to just banish them. It's a balancing act, really, in which we start first recognizing that there are intrusive thoughts. I am a powerful air magician. I have clear concepts. I truly believe that I only have power over myself. This is the truth. But there are also intrusions coming from a whole societal culture that teaches us how to manipulate. I can choose to see the intrusions as truth, but this is only an illusion. I can also choose to see these intrusions as opportunities, as prompts for my own development and for my own strengthening of for the strengthening of my beliefs. It's not even a learning process. It's just like a muscle training exercise in which I can further and further see the strength of my own beliefs, right? So if I choose to see them, these intrusive thoughts as provocations, then I will see that they are there. They create an imbalance, they generate an imbalance, they provoke emotions that are sometimes hard to deal with, emotions such I I'm missing out, as I said. I feel anxious, I feel lesser than, I feel like I'm non-competitive, I feel, you name it. But then I look at these emotions, I honor these emotions, and it's going to cost me, right? In terms of, this is also work. So if I'm not sleeping, I cannot deal with these emotions. I cannot, after dealing with these emotions and doing whatever I need to do, crying, writing about them, expressing them artistically, talking to a friend, a trusted friend, I cannot have enough energy to then plan initiatives that are going to connect me back to that initial spark or to the expansion I need in this current phase of my projects. And I won't see the opportunity I have right now for growth, for actual growth in my life. Because for what I see here, option number one, you have everything you need in your hands right now. Then you could ask me, it's everything on your hands right now. You're the kind of person that, it's true that we are blessed every day by the universe, and in Maya, in this illusion world we live in, it's very hard to see things like that. I understand. I have my issues. I'm not a perfect being. But in your case scenario, and for this specific situation I'm reading here, what I see is that right now, what you're dealing with is not necessarily, if you resonate with this bio, a material constraint. What you're dealing here is the honing of a very specific skill related to your connection with the air element, which is the skill of staying true to your own concepts, to your own idealizations, to your own projects, which are actually very good, but may go against the grain of what society understands or what your peers understand is the right project for a human being to be happy. So you're kind of strengthening your muscles when it comes to being true to yourself, and in this specific case, you're strengthening your muscles when it comes to being true to your representation, to your conceptualization of projects and lifestyle. Okay, this is what's specific about this reading. So in order to do that, you will need to actually do things that remind you of the spark, the fun, and the adventure. Adventure being the key word here. Sleep more. Okay? But you sleep more. Sleep more so that you can deal with the emotions produced by these intrusive thoughts that tell you what you're doing or what you're conceptualizing is not enough. And then you'll be able to see opportunities that are very concrete to grow from your conceptualizations, not from other people's conceptualizations that are normally, in the case of what's influencing you right now, manipulative, okay? And not resonating with the kind of project you want to bring about in the world. So I hope this reading has helped. I hope you have seen a way of balancing the four elements in your current situation. If you enjoyed it, please tell me how it applies to your situation and if it was really helpful. I hope to see you in my next video, and bye-bye. Hello. If you've chosen the fire card, then this is your reading. I was admiring your card before I started recording here. And I don't know if you've skipped the introduction, but this is the first time in a long time that I'm filming in mid-morning. So I hope the sounds all around me do not interfere with our communication. But look at this beautiful card. It immediately brought me images of a phoenix rising from the ashes. I told people in the introduction that this reading was really intuitive. All of the elements present here, I'm even going to bring this beautiful branch here and the crystals and shells back to frame. And if I need more space, then I'll move them a little bit further. But all of the elements here are very important, and they are working with me and they are helping me channel. If you want to know more about this process, I suggest you go back to the beginning of the video. I was also called for your reading to do two very important things. First thing is to light up the Palo Santo. I had already kind of incensed here a little bit between readings. I always do that, but not with the Palo Santo specifically. And then I heard it clearly. You need to use the Palo Santo for this one. Now the Palo Santo is a potent transmuter of energies. You can still see the smoke of the incense coming here from the side, but they said no, Palo Santo for this reading. And then with the Palo Santo and the phoenix image here, this is actually a fairy, right? The phoenix was an interpretation that just showed up very clearly as I got it. This is actually a fire fairy. They're also saluting you in your reading, and we are going to shuffle cards that are going to represent how the other elements are going to be balanced regarding the fire element, or in relation to the fire element in your reading, and possibly a conclusion. But we are going to have 4 cards here that I'm going to shuffle for. But what I see here is that if you've chosen this group, then you are in a powerful moment of rebirth. And with the connection of this message and the Palo Santo, I see that this rebirth to you is very, very fiery, as most rebirths are, in the sense that there's a new sense of spark as you rise up from this ashes, but there's also a very important connection to earth. So this reading is, it doesn't feel to me as really only about the fire element. Maybe some of you were drawn to the fire and earth groups at the same time. If you were, please feel free to watch both readings, but I really don't know what's going to come up in the Earth reading. The readings so far have been very different. I know this is the second one, but this is a completely different thing I'm seeing here. I was also called to bring this cinnamon stick to the frame, and I was almost forgetting. And cinnamon, I just heard at a class, a magic, chaos magic class, like 2 days ago, that cinnamon is very associated with abundance, with bringing more money to our lives, etc. But it's only because, well, normally we tend to talk about the most material, observable results of a certain herb or substance. But then the teacher was explaining that cinnamon is associated to that. When you use essential oils, when you use it in tea, it's a delicious tea. It makes a delicious tea. I use it a lot. Or any other kind of solution, spell, etc. Because it talks directly to our sense of self-esteem, right? Because it encourages us to see and to ground our unique expression of divine being. We are all divine beings. We all come from perfect spiritual manifestations. We are all perfect spiritual manifestations of God. We are all, at least I believe, God manifestations on earth, and as diverse as the number of us here. So cinnamon is kind of a conductor that helps us ground in 3D terms whatever this divine expression is, and accept it, because the challenge, the provocation we're faced with here when we come to the material world is to accept the configuration of this divine expression in 3D terms, be it because the way our body has been configured, the way our mind works, the way our emotional body works, our mental body work. Well, our configuration, our bioenergetic configuration in general works, is the ways it's different from others, because we are all very different from each other. The way it works is not, feels like not accepted, or is not accepted. Sometimes it's hard for us to accept ourselves and to see our role, our unique contribution. So cinnamon is going to operate on that. With cinnamon, with the Palo Santo being lit here, and the phoenix-like fairy we have in your card, I see that you've been under a huge transformation that is actually all about accepting yourself and transmuting, even recreating the narrative of your life, I would say, through the lenses of someone who now accepts who they are exactly as they are. So if you came to this reading and you resonate with what I'm saying, it's like you now have a completely different way of seeing yourself, then maybe it's even hard to explain. It's something that you would have maybe some kind of difficulty conveying to a close friend. They could even say, if they know you really well, yeah, I can see the difference. You're a completely different person right now. But it's not something easy to exemplify, because what's changed is the whole cellular structure and the approach to the same bioenergetic complex, if you know what I mean. You're still the same compound, but the way you use it and the way you accept it is completely different. And if you're going through this experience, you know exactly what I mean, and you know exactly how it feels, but it's hard to find words to express that. So I don't see this bio as necessarily talking about an imbalance, but maybe more of a confirmation of a moment, or maybe a confirmation of some strange strange procedures, strange occurrences that come with this kind of moment, so that you don't feel alone, so that you feel validated, so that spirit can say to you, yeah, that's it, that's what's happening, don't worry, yeah, that's all about it. and and move on, because it's really a beautiful process. Oh, do you want to be upright? Yeah, you want to be upright. Okay. And then we are going to talk about how the other elements are in tune with your very sparkly and fiery element here with these 4 cards that I'm shuffling for right now. I think I need an extra riffle shuffle here. Just give me a moment. I'm gonna cut it. Yeah, I feel, because of the way I cut it, I feel like there is, you used to be someone who would, any attention you used to give to how other people would feel about your actions kind of collapsed. Yeah, and I have with the Hangman in reverse here, which totally makes sense. Okay. So let's talk about this huge shift and the elements related to it. We start with more fire, something that we do not have here. Let me see if there's an element we do not have here. We have water, we have air, we have earth. No, we have all of the elements here. And we have an extra earth here. Water, earth, air, and fire. Yeah, they're all here. Okay, so we start with earth and victory in reverse. So this victory in reverse, I'm actually seeing this as very, very positive. You underwent this huge shift, and as I was saying, I think that something that maybe is a little bit scary, but highly positive, is that you don't care the way you used to care about what other people think of you. I think that in the past, you would not only care, but base your decisions on what other people would think of you. And maybe you would even not doing this for the sake of vanity, because I really don't see people coming to this group as having any kind of self-image issue. I know that we talked about self-image issues with the cinnamon here and the rebirth related to further connecting to yourself and recreating your narrative and everything, but I don't think this was based at all in a need of coming from more superficial constraints, you know, or superficial desires, to more how can I say, more elevated desires. This is not what I'm seeing at all. I'm seeing like you used to consider that having that being concerned about what other people would think was some kind of politeness. You were taught as a child that considering what other people would think was not a way of manipulating, or a way of, there's a name for that, people pleasing. You are not a people pleaser. You thought of it more in terms of being polite. You would ask yourself, what right do I have to express myself in the world in a way that's going to cause some kind of embarrassment to other people? So you would diminish yourself like that, but with an intention that was based on social norms and politeness. So it was, yes, superficial in a way, but it was based on good intentions and on something learned, something societal that if it turned up like that, it was probably very important for your family, for the place where you come from. And it was also some kind of protection because it comes from a different place, you see, because when you're people pleasing, I'm not trying to diminish in any way people who people please. I was a huge people pleaser myself, but I don't see that for you. Um, if it comes from a place of people pleasing, then yourself is kind of disassociated from what you truly want. You are not disassociating from what you wanted. You were just trying, you really wanted, what you really wanted was to be someone of service, someone who truly helped. But then the mechanism to cope with that was called politeness. And politeness was not as strong of a mechanism to cope with that because it was too superficial in its methodology. And but politeness was what you had available, the best of what you had available as a child. And I see that it's all gone now after this transformation. Something happened that made you realize that there's no true victory in that. So I think that you're probably experiencing right now something that I have experienced myself, that is seeing that lots of things that you would consider to be a victory before this huge shift, this huge transformation here, because I feel like you, with this, even with this five here, this is a card number five, a card of illumination, a card of tradition also, but I see it here as a card of connection with the divine. So you're truly connected, and I see that most of you have already changed. And after this change, this transformation, this rebirth, you're probably having the opportunity to see how a lot of the things that you would consider to be a victory are actually happening in your life, but you simply do not see them as a victory anymore. Okay, so I don't see this victory in reverse as failure, and I don't think you see them it's either. I'm going to give a very practical example. If you at a certain point in your life saw a promotion as a victory because you thought that a promotion was the natural step in the company you were, and it was polite in the sense of polite I was talking about before, to do what everyone was doing. It was your service to the world, and what you wanted was not the promotion. What you wanted was to respect those rules of people. These people are valuable. They understand promotions as an interesting mechanism of validating people. So you don't want to be the arrogant person who says this doesn't work. So you were being polite, basically. This is what I'm talking about. But of course, this is just an example. And now you got promoted, and you don't see this as a victory anymore. It's not that you're unable to celebrate, you're even celebrating. But now, because of this change, you can see much more for yourself. So I see you experimenting the fire element that's coming to your life. It's coming in a sense together with the earth element, as I said, coming to bring you stability, but you are not deluded by whatever stability you got now. You have such a grounding sense of possibility and opportunity, and you have shifted your priorities so very much. Your priorities have shifted from getting outside things, external sources of validation, to these new internal sources of validation based on values that you're only starting to recognize of what you truly wanted once this politeness and once this societal rules kind of evade your life, that yes, you're victorious, but it doesn't feel like such a victory anymore, and you're not resentful. You just look and okay, I'm happy. Maybe I have a raise in my salary. Maybe I'm going to earn a little bit more. If I have a family, I'm going to be able to provide a little bit more. I'm going to be able to better provide for them. I'm going to take advantage of that. But you're not, your ego is not overinflated. You're not this kind of person. And this is so, so beautiful. You're not concentrated on like the negative or negativized side of such an accomplishment. It is an accomplishment, but you can see it for what it is. And this sounds really strange to you because it's new, okay? This kind of material objective does not speak to you anymore in the way you used to. I really hope I'm making myself clear. Let's say you win an award, because I see lots of different kinds of successes for you happening for you, and you're having this kind of it's strange now because it's something that you wanted. Let's say when you're 7, 14, 25, I don't know how old you are, but a while ago this is all that you wanted. It seemed perfectly positive, and like almost like I zeroed the game of life, you know? And now you get to this place and you see, oh, this is positive, but this is not what it's all about. And some people, when they get to the situation, they become resentful. It's not your case because you've changed so much that you simply understand, no, I've changed. I can see the value of those things, but I can see that I'm not made of that. My value now is not based on that. I'm based on much more, on deeper things. I'm much more than that, which is something that you always thought about, but now you can truly experience that. So it's, I hope you understand the moment. Your priorities now are more related to collaboration with this two of gems here, which is actually the two of pentacles. They are much more based on collaboration, on the kind of person that you're going to attract to your life. And actually, I would even say that your grounding is also based on that. Because, of course, when your energy changes, the people around you change too. So I think the second symptom, for lack of a better word, of this change is that some people just went out of your life and some people are approaching, which are very different from the kind of people you used to relate to in the past. And I also think these transitions in groups of friends or people around you, I'm not going to label them as friends, but the people around you are changing. And this transition was soft, which is something that maybe is making you a little bit, oh my God, this moment in my life is so odd. I've changed so completely. And things around me are changing so completely too. Because it's like these people, not only they are different from the people you used to relate to, but they also see things the way you do. It's kind of intuitive, but you know that they are more aligned with the values that you're starting to uncover here about yourself, that feel true to yourself right now. But the transition was swift, the transition was gentle, better saying. So no drama. People who are not aligned, they simply get out. They got out of your life, and these people who got out of your life were. I see scenarios like, so you get the promotion in my example, you get the award, you get the new card, and they kind of insist a little bit that you get a little bit more excited about that. And you are excited, you are happy. So you say something like, no, but I am excited, I am happy. You're just not over effusive. It reminds me of a very, very, wisdom in words that I heard from a magic teacher I had. that went like that. The true wise man knows how to experience its ups and downs in balance. So it's not about not taking pleasure in your ups, and not about, and it's not about not actually experiencing difficult emotions when you're down. Of course you're going to experience all those things, and I think that you are experiencing when there's a problem, then you get sad. When there's, with these beautiful occurrences in your life, you're experiencing joy, true joy. But it's not just that over effusive state in which some people get, that is overly compulsive, and it's like, oh, this is the only thing I have, my car, my promotion, my award. And there were some people in your life that they vibed in the state you were before, that was a little bit more compulsive. It's just a matter of difference in energetic state, you know. So it was strange for them when they saw you getting all those things, and you're keeping your balance. You're keeping a different kind of balance, a kind of balance that they couldn't recognize. It's like, why aren't you happier? And you're like, no, but I'm happy. And it's a kind of healthier happy, or healthy happy, not to compare. And they say, oh, okay, it's strange, can't keep up, can't keep up. And these people simply live your life. But it's not a dramatic leaving, it's just an energetic match that's not happening anymore, and new people enter that are a match to your new energy. So now you value those interactions much more than anything else. They are in your the top priorities, you know. Top two priorities of your life is like relationships, and relationships in the sense of, you understand that people around you and the relationships you establish are huge indicators of your level of spiritual, not, I'm not even going to say spiritual advancement, but the way your energy is flowing right now, you can see it's mirrored in the people that are around you. So this is beautiful. So here we have fire and earth working together, and we have an understanding of how the internal world and the external world are, well, even this division, internal external, is actually an illusion, because after your transformation you could clearly understand the connection between both worlds and how to operate your magic. But you are, even if you're not indulging in these compulsive behaviors, you are fueled with energy to do lots and lots and lots of things. So I have a card that showed up for pile 1, 2, for group 1, better saying, which is anxiety. And then this is the true challenge when it comes to balancing the 4 elements, which comes in the form of air. And we'll have water here to talk about in a minute. But I see that maybe the major challenge involving all of this beautiful transformation is when it comes to anxiety, which is a challenge for most of us right now. This is a purple card. The purple here is talking to me a lot. This amethyst is talking to me a lot in your reading, throughout your reading, which is an amethyst that looks like an iceberg to me. And it creates a vibe of tip of the iceberg and bottom of the iceberg. And I'm being called to tell you that, well, you know that your anxiety is not reaching top levels, its peak right now, because of all of this beautiful transformation I was talking about here. But there's a clear message here for you that if you can, if you like, if it's available to you to work with amethysts, then you should. How do you work with a crystal? Well, first of all, you talk to your crystal, because crystals are entities, they're beings, they are alive, no matter what biological classification says. I respect biology a lot, but they are alive in a way that's not aligned with the biological classifications we have, which are also useful and are in other areas of scientific knowledge. But when it comes to spiritual knowledge, Crystals are also alive only in a different way. And you can talk to them, you can establish relationships with them, you can take care of them very easily. There are many different methodologies. I particularly believe that if you wash them out in water, in current water, and if you from time to time expose them to sunlight, they're grateful. I also believe that there are beings that live inside these crystals that are not the crystals themselves, but the crystals themselves are alive. And I talk to them. You don't even have to know or believe about well, in any of that. I think your anxiety levels are under control, but they can pose a challenge, a balance challenge. And I believe that due to karma and to everything that we experience on this earth, we are always receiving prompts for better balance, because balancing things is part of what makes us human, is part of our experience in life. So when you feel like you're being challenged by anxiety, don't overjudge yourself. Don't feel like this change didn't really occur, etc. Don't find it strange, because it's a part of our experience. Don't go too hard on yourself. Working with crystals might resonate with you or not. If it doesn't, even if it's highly suggested by this reading, you can try working with plants, with flowers, with any kind of vegetable, or even simply with the color purple. There's something that was brought to humanity by the master Saint Germain, which is very simple, which is working with the purple flame. It's very, very, very simple. You just imagine a purple flame whenever you're facing a difficult moment, or if you want to give it constance and permanence, better saying, you can establish a moment in your day. But it works wonders if you're facing a difficult moment and you just want to invoke the powers of the purple flame. Then you just imagine yourself, or maybe the object, the situation, the environment you feel like could use the purple flame, involved in this purple flame. And you can use very simple invocations, just like repeating purple flame, purple flame, purple flame, over the situation, get down, get down, get down. Or I'm trying to translate from Portuguese. Or purple flame, purple flame, purple flame, get down over the situation, get down, get down, get down. Lay down. Please find the expression in English that works better for you. But the idea is that you repeat 3 times the name of the purple flame, and you repeat 3 times the expression that says, this purple flame is covering the situation, okay? Probably you'll find a better translation online, but it's something very easy to work with, and it was a gift that Master Saint Germain brought to humanity that anyone can use. You can also work with the purple color in clothing. You can also work with it in pieces of jewelry, anything really. So I feel like anxiety, when is the representation of a challenge related to the air element that could be present in your life right now. But I see it as something very, very small, because when it comes to the water element that I see represented in this hangman card in reverse here, I feel that right now what you're doing is getting to know this new terrain, okay? You are getting to know this new version of yourself, and it takes time, and it's important not to rush. So if the air element in your life is used not to investigate this new fiery persona rising from the ashes, but to produce anxiety, then you won't be able to contemplate and to surrender to the experience as the hangman card suggests. And this is going to create emotional imbalance, which would be very common in this situation because everything is changing all around you. It's hard sometimes to experience that what's supposed to be a victory is not a victory anymore, and people all around you are changing. I really don't feel like you're facing this as something negative. I think that you're acing this. I think that you're very happy, but there's always the chance, right? So this is a confirmation reading more than a warning reading of any kind. But yes, there is the possibility of imbalance because we're all humans and we're not perfect when it comes to anxiety and to a little bit of resistance of observing and dedicating to getting to know and investigating who this new fiery person is. So once again, they're saying you can work with the color purple to diminish the levels of anxiety, and rest assured that no time you spend on yourself, observing this new person who is being born is time poorly spent. You really need to spend this time. And this, with the water element, is going to help you reconfigure even your emotional body. We are 70% water. I've been talking about that a lot in our videos. So maybe working with the cycles of the moon that dictate the rhythm of the tides is going to help you. You will know when you're more emotional when tides are up, when you're more emotional when tides are up, and then you can see these emotional patterns rising up and learn how to balance them more instead of judging them. And you will see when your emotions, when you're able to be a little bit more logical or a little bit less anxious when tides are down, and then you kind of understand the patterns a little bit more. But your main activity now is to contemplate, to surrender to the experience, and you could be facing resistance toward that because there's a lot of change to contemplate. Okay, so this is all a very normal process. This reading is basically a confirmation on, yeah, that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. This is not the time to be doing these new huge plans or over celebrating like people suppose you should do what is supposed to be a victory but is a victory to your old self. No, this is the time to embrace this new version of yourself and actually go deeper into it and understand who this new person is, understand what this fiery fairy, this phoenix-like fairy is bringing to your life, okay? What this blessing really is, because it's an amazing blessing. Now you're able not to work based on societal codes alone. You're able not to work based on politeness alone. You're able to work from whatever makes you the most passionate. And that's what the world really needs to see the fullest version of your contribution. Okay? So I hope this reading has helped. If it did, please let me know how it applies, what kind of change, if you feel comfortable, of course, what kind of change you've been manifesting in your life. And I'll see you hopefully in the next reading. Bye-bye. Hello, so if you've selected this beautiful earth element related card, then this will be your reading. And I don't know if you've skipped the introduction, but we are here to talk about any kind of balance needed, or maybe some kind of more specific imbalance related or not to the element you've chosen. We'll see, because these readings are coming up very different for each case, but we're going to talk about the impact of the 4 elements on your journey right now. And with this card here, what I see is a strong connection to building up a legacy, something that feels more solid and that goes deep. It evokes the image of Wuthering Heights. I don't know if you know this book by Emily Bronte. The eternal rocks beneath. It's the way Catherine, the main character, describes her love for Heathcliff. This is some sort of intense passion. And I know we're not talking about the fire element here, but there seems to be a connection between the way the earth element is going to conduct this reading and the fire element. So maybe you're experiencing some sort of a grounding moment or a need for grounding, we'll see, that's also connected to some sort of passion arising with its possible consequences. But what I see here is a topic related to legacy, to building the foundations for whatever you mean to leave as your mark in this world, as your contribution to this world. And it's not really clear to me so far, or it doesn't come to my mind so far. We'll see with the tarot cards. If we are going to talk about an imbalance, it's just this match between earth and fire, even if you've chosen the earth element, that talks about the relationship between building a legacy, building the structure, the foundations for whatever you mean to express in this earthly realm. And maybe what's occurring to me right now is, with this association with Heathcliff, Catherine was talking about something that was not visible. I remember that in this excerpt, that's one of the most beautiful excerpts in the book. And for those who know this particular story, it's a violent love story in the sense that it's very intense, and it was even overtly criticized at that time, and it still is, as something that could be understood as an abusive relationship. So it's pretty intense. And she describes her love, she's comparing her love for Heathcliff to her love for Linton, which is kind of a more bland character she ends up having a relationship with too. I don't want to give many spoilers. I know it's a classic book and there are lots of representations in the movies, but maybe you don't know the story and you want to get to know it, better. But the thing is, when she talks about Heathcliff, she says that it's her love for Heathcliff is like the eternal rocks beneath. It's a source, it's an invisible source of the light that's invisible, but it's necessary. It talks to her core, her essence. So I feel like maybe a challenge here is the source of your passions is invisible right now, and you're passionate about creating these foundations, these structures, something that you consider to be, that you feel would give you security in material terms, or at least in the sense, I came here, I manifested on earth, I'm incarnate, and I know after I've done this and that I've accomplished my mission, or I went as far as I could. Your soul's craving for this kind of confirmation that you are at least in a path to building your legacy. You are at least halfway through the checklist, or depending on your age, at a good starting point for the construction of your legacy. And you're really passionate about it. But all of the indicators right now, they seem to be really invisible. They are a source of eternal and necessary delight. But it's so very hard to be in touch with them. It's so very hard to see them. It's so very hard to assess them. More practically speaking. So I don't know if it makes sense to you. Maybe if it doesn't, it's not your pile, it's not your reading. But I feel it's almost like an urgency, someone craving to have more structure in their life. And it's not any kind of structure. It's structure that has their name on it. It's structure that they could appreciate and understand. Yeah, I've built this because I was meant to build it. It's very practical material. It's very earthly, but but it's like you're worried that it has your number on it, that you were the one meant to build it, that you were the one. You don't want to miss you don't want to miss your mark when it comes to the mission you came here on this earth to accomplish. And one of the first messages that come to my mind regarding that is that there's no way you're gonna miss your mark. I understand the urgency, and I understand how you're craving to get it right and to do it right and to build it. And it's beautiful. It's very intense, but it's beautiful energy. But there's really no way you can miss it, miss building your legacy. There's something I heard like a couple of days ago regarding our mission, and it went like, we never truly deviate on our mission if you consider that some of the challenges we face that maybe could be a little less aligned or a little less attuned with the paths that are that would represent more of a straight line towards the end goal. It's even strange talking about it like that, because really our mission doesn't work like in straight lines and goals, and it's not very similar to a human map, to any human map one can conceive. But anyway, just in analogical terms, every time we go astray, so to speak, of what makes us feel more energetically aligned to our mission, it's still a part of our mission, because we needed to learn that lesson. We needed, maybe it's just like, let's talk about it in terms of a game, right? An open world game of any sort. Sometimes when you're playing an open world game, you have the opportunity of exploring many tracks that are not a part of the mainstream trajectory of the game, right? The main narrative. And so you will explore this many other tracks, but in some cases you're going to find artifacts, characters, and you're going to gain awareness on some things. You're going to level up on abilities and actually gain items, game items that could help you once you decide to go on the main game's track, right? You're going to be more able to then face that main track than you were if you didn't, diverge from time to time. And it could make the experience more fun too, because you're more in control, you're designing your own route. So this is sort of the first message of the reading. You have this craving it's very passionate. It's fire and earth, like the objective is related to the earth element. I want to make my mark here. I want to make something visible. I want to build invisible foundations for something big that's going to sprout out of the earth. Be it my work project, my family, my I don't know, my career. That's not necessarily one specific project, but this mass of actions that build my mark, my brand in the world. But I'm eager to do something that sprouts out of the earth of very carefully built foundations. But it's kind of it's hard to wait. And more than that, I think you're a very patient person. I see Taurus energy here. I see especially Taurus and Capricorn energy here. But I also see Leo. So you could be like a Taurus sun, not Taurus sun really, no. I see like a Leo sun and a Leo, maybe Leo, Libra sun, and a Taurus ascendant, Taurus rising, okay? It could also be a Capricorn rising. But if you're not, that's okay. And the message still resonating, that's okay. Use it only as an extra piece of confirmation. I'm talking about that because in my studies of astrology, then the sun is going to represent a little bit of what's your karma. And the rising sign is going to represent your more of your mission, okay? I'm overly simplifying it, but this is how I've studied and in my line of thought. So of course there are many lines of thought. So I see that basically your problem is not that it's taking so long, especially if you're young. Your problem is how to deal with building foundations for a legacy if they're sometimes invisible. And I see that you like building these foundations, just like Catherine said about her love for Heathcliff. It's an invisible source of eternal delight. Building these foundations, you really like building it. Sometimes you like so much that you question yourself. You see this figure here is delighting in the appreciation of these earthy colors and elements we have going on in this picture. It's amazingly beautiful. So sometimes you may question yourself, am I not overly invested in creating the foundations that I never go that extra mile to simply produce more results? You're very nitpicky when it comes to what needs to be done before we put a project in the world. Or at least you consider yourself to be, because what I see here is a careful provider and planner. You really understand the concept of legacy, but it's sometimes hard to assess something that you cannot actually see. Even if you're building it from the ground up, it's hard to assess the beginning of any project. And if it's a whole life project, as I think it is for many of you, it's not just talking about a specific project at work or a career. It's more of a vision you have for yourself and your legacy. Then it's even harder, okay? And you're like an artisan of your legacy. You really want to, you're really imbued on the desire of leaving a mark in this world, and you want to know that it is your mark, you know, it's that you didn't get it wrong, that you didn't get your spiritual mission wrong. So let's shuffle from this tarot, the tarot I'm using today, which is the Prism Tarot. I like very much, and see how the other elements and how the other elements can contribute, how they are right now, if they're balanced, if they're not balanced. Because so far what I see is the need of balance between passion as expressed by the fire element, and earth as expressed in the building of a legacy. But I don't see yet if they're balanced, if they are right now, as of right now in your situation, if they're balanced and balanced, if there's any suggestion of complementation with more of the air element and the water element, and how do they show up. So we're going to see about that. There's also something that I was not going to say yet, but I'm going to. In the comparison in Wuthering Heights, she's comparing Linton with Heathcliff, as I said, and then she says that Linton, her love for Linton, because she's actually saying, I love Linton and I love Heathcliff, and Heathcliff, I've already told you, right? The eternal rocks beneath, source of invisible delight. And when she talks about Linton, she says it's like the foliage in the woods in autumn, if I'm not mistaken. It's just something that passes, you know, that the wind will take. So you don't want to make something that the wind will swiftly take, something like that. Okay, so let's see what we have for you. So here we have water, water, and we have air, and we have a little bit more fire. Okay. So the first thing I see here, and it's interesting because we have a little bit more fire. And for your reading, I didn't light up the candle. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to light up the candle with the intention of bringing some more of this element to your endeavors. Thank you, Spirit, for this gentle reminder. Why am I saying that? Because what I see here is that, yeah, you are passionate about building this legacy. But sometimes what's stealing your thunder is not knowing how to assess your progress. So now I understand better what's going on. I'm going to start from the bottom, differently from the other two readings. And this homecoming card here, which is the Four of Wands or the Four of Lightning in this deck, but it is also represented as homecoming here. Okay, homecoming, and it was in reverse. So, and it's interesting because this little petal, I don't know if you watched the introduction, but I've explained that I'm going to dry these leaves up. They called my attention during a walk. I live in an island. So thank you for the sign too. Okay, let me explain my meanings here. I feel like you're very passionate about the need to build a legacy, but this passion kind of is short. It's not that it's short-lived. You're really passionate about that, but it comes in spurs. It's hard for you to keep the fire alive. It's like when you think about what you're going to do in life and the legacy that you want to live, your eyes shine. Probably if this bio is for you, they shone during my whole introduction here with this card. You may think this is for everyone. This is too general of a reading. And of course, it's a general reading, so use your intuition. But it's not true that everybody understands, especially the word legacy like that. This is specific to this is relatable to a very specific group of people who came here to this earth to build something very material, very visible, and then have to face all the conundrums and the difficulties of materializing something that needs to be recognizable not only by themselves but by other people as useful, inspirational, and good in the terms in the sense of goodness, not in the sense of quality. Also quality, but you understand, I hope you understand my meaning. Something that's the flowering system coming here. Something in the sense of something they can see vibes in the frequency of divine goodness, okay? So it's a lot, and it needs to be tangible. This is what I mean. So if your eyes shine with this sort of discourse the speech that I was rendering in the beginning of your reading, but it's very difficult to keep it alive, to keep this fire alive. The goddess Hestia may be an interesting goddess to work for you because she is the protector of the homely fire, and we have the homecoming card here. So it's like For you, the most important things when talking, the most important thing when talking about the elements is that, yes, you're someone working with the manifestation of something very earthly, and the earth element will always be present in your concerns, and you'll always be talking about things that are very material, in the sense that they are very concrete, and having a connection with nature, with the ultimate material things that were already here on this orb, even before there were human beings here, is very important to you. Walking in nature, having contact with nature, understanding the cycles of nature, this will make your project and your vibe stronger. But you also need the fire, and keeping this fire, this home fire, this internal furnace alive, with or without the help of Hestia, the Greek goddess, or any other home goddess that may, or pantheon, from any pantheon that you may resonate with, will be very important, because I see that your fire towards this issue is, you need to learn how to be autonomous in rekindling this fire. You know, you cannot count, since this is such an important mission, on someone lighting up your fire, reminding you to light up your fire from time to time. And or at least you need to how can I say, you need to self encourage by setting alarms, fire alarms, from time to time. So I'm going to watch a video that rekindles my fire. I'm going to work with candles. I'm going to have these little props around me that remind me of how important the building of my legacy is, no matter how invisible the indicators are at this point in time. I am going to talk about some things that show up here that also talk about how they can become more visible. But the first and most important thing is this homecoming process here that make you feel safe. And it's talking about how the structures you're building, the foundations you're building, are not to be found outside of you. This is something I think that intuitively you already know, if you're this kind of person tuned into legacy. But it's kind of like you lose your spark, you lose your fire, because sometimes you're convinced that they are outside of you. Like most of us, if we're working with the image of building a legacy or not, we get distracted by the illusions of Maya. So every time you believe that because you still do not have that, or because you still do not have clear indications that you're building these foundations, you start confounding. Every time you think about that, and you start confounding the foundations that you're building which are internal, which are in fact lessons that make you stronger, because the stronger you are, the stronger these foundations are. It's almost automatic. Then this confusion makes you lose your fire. I'm going to give an example. You may think that, let's say that your legacy involves feeding the world, and I'm talking about real food here. So you could be someone who is studying agronomy, you're studying healthy ways of producing food, and your projects go around food distribution and production, and it doesn't matter at what point in your life you are right now. It doesn't matter if you're still at school and you're envisioning all of these processes, or if you are at college, or if you're a PhD. No matter how old you are, but you're always working with this topic. You want to build a true legacy that people can look at and understand, as they see your work materialized in the world, that there are better ways to to feed and more democratic, and that food should be a basic human right, and not only any kind of food, and the way we process food. And you want people to have a healthy relationship with food and a democratic relationship with food. This is your theme, let's say. So it really works at all levels, all spheres of your life. It works in your family life, it works for your friends and the way you consume food yourself, and also for your studies, and also for your career, etc., etc. Sometimes it may be very hard to see how you're progressing, because there's so many areas you could apply this, and you're always trying to apply many different areas, but you can't quite see the picture. And in administration, people would call it the key performance indicators, the KPIs for your legacy. And what they're saying is that those KPIs are internal. And not only you can never miss your path on this journey because you're already in your mission, but your KPIs are internal. So it's something like every time you test on something, every time you study something, every time you think about something that's related to this topic, you read something about it, you're putting another brick in the whole construction of your legacy. And it's not like this brick needs to be external. It will, of course, interact with the external world. And I'm not suggesting that you simply assume lotus position and envision a world, an idealized world in which food is no longer an issue or feeding is no longer an issue. But even if this could be one of your actions, but what I'm saying, more importantly, is that miracles do happen when our energy is focused and concentrated on our purpose. So we cannot control results in the way that we normally think we can. Of course, you could go slow and steady, and it normally is the best way to go about things, I think, thinking about spiritual terms. But the rhythm is going to be given in the co-creation with the universe as you align with this mission. So it's more like I go slow and steady, and I see this result here, this result there, this result, and I check my internal registers of being aligned. And then one day I could possibly wake up and lots of things are working at the same time. And I didn't know exactly how they ended up there, but I can see all of the solid foundation I was expecting to happen. And it's materialized in front of me in a way that is even better than the one I was projecting, because I'm co-creating. I'm not creating. I'm co-creating with the universe. So what they're saying with this homecoming card is you lose your passion because you believe you need to control and assess every single step of the process, when in fact you don't need to. If you want to focus on your energy on something, focus on your energy on understanding what this legacy is, even if you cannot see anything but the next step, even if you cannot see how it's going to end, because at the end, we cannot see, none of us can see the end result, because we are co-creating, we're not creating alone, okay? And then the other thing I see here, so the fire element is very important for you, not because you're not passionate enough by the whole notion of creating a legacy, but because you're not creating alone, and sometimes you miss on it because you think you're creating alone. You need to better understand that your internal furnace is your responsibility in this contract you have with the universe when it comes to your mission. Your most important collaboration here, your part in the deal is keeping this furnace alive by not confounding external results with the way things are going to ultimately go, because miracles do happen as you get stronger within. And every single thing you do is collaborating to make you stronger, if you decide that they are, if you focus your intention. Sorry, you guys, I had to interrupt, make a brief pause here. But as I was saying, The whole idea between bridging, not bridging the gap, but balancing the element, the earth element and the fire element, is just keeping your fire lit to a degree in which you understand that every single step you make is collaborating to the building of this foundation, because the true foundation is being built within you and not outside of you. And the results that you're going to see in this co-creation with the universe, they are going to show up depending and associated with the level of energy. As you rise up energy levels and you further align with what you wish to manifest, they are going to show up no matter what. It's the law of attraction in its full and most honest representation, right? We have the number 8 going on here, and the number 8 is also lying down, right, to the side, is also the infinity symbol. So it's an ongoing process. It's a universal law that you're going to attract whatever resonates with you. That's even how pick a card readings go. If you keep this fire alive, understanding that every single thing you do is changing you so that you can attract the right kind of foundational material, then okay, you already have earth and fire going. Now I see, and I'm going to come to this card here, because water is going to be a completely different issue I want to have more time to talk about. I see that when it comes to the air element, with this 5 of clouds or 5 of swords and the feet here, this is, I don't see it actually talking about defeat as in you have a mind that defeats you, any sort of more literal interpretation like that. In this configuration here, what I see is that yes, you are afraid of being defeated, as I've already said when I was talking about this card. But this is kind of also being lifted out of your consciousness as you progress and as you keep your passion alive. Because there's no reason to be afraid of being defeated if you understand that whatever you do to work on yourself regarding the theme that you want to build upon is what's going to change the environment around you. So this thoughts that you may have that are related to a fear of not being able to bring about what you want to see in the world, they are only weak and collateral effects of not understanding how this process really works, not understanding that the foundations you're building are internal and not external, no matter how you want to see these results show up. It's kind of like you need to understand that in order to see results in the external world, then you need to change internally. Once you understand that, whatever defeatist thoughts you may be having are going to disappear, and then the air element of this journey is going to go back into balance. What can you do to make it easier on you and to encourage this new perspective? This is what I think this card is really talking about, and not defeat. You see, we have a king here and it's resting. So this is talking to me about not trying to control results, obviously. But there are all these 5 clouds that represent, of course, the 5 swords. But they are clouds, right? So they are also protecting the resting of the king, the king that's resting, okay? What could seem to be for a controlling person, an attitude of the king is dead or the king is has lost a battle, or maybe is never going to rise up again, is actually protection, so that this more logical part of the brain can rest and let the building happen and let the co-creation with the universe work its magic, because it needs space to happen. And then when we come to the water element, we are going to talk more, a little bit more about that. Okay, so what I see here that can help you not feel defeated and work with through your fear of never completing, never reaching this level of safety when it comes to your legacy, is giving lots of time for your brain to process whatever it needs to process, lots of time for yourself to rest, lots of time. I feel like it's not contemplation, it's actual rest. So I think that resting for you is very important. You never know with the magnitude of your mission what's really happening in terms of, you know, energy shifting and reprogramming and cell spinning and turning and and you never know what's happening in your bioenergetic complex. It's what I mean when you're sleeping. I would say that you are the kind of person who needs to sleep 8, 9, 10 hours a day, and sometimes you may question that, thinking, if I have such an enormous project legacy to build, who am I to be sleeping 9 to 10 hours a day? And there's a suggestion here that you're precisely the person who should be sleeping maybe 6 hours at night, 7 hours a night, and a nap during the day. You should sleep whenever you feel like sleeping, really. You should honor your resting needs, you know, because you're also doing a lot mentally. You should never forget that there is a conceptual part to your project, and that there is an effort in terms of there is an abstract effort and there is an immaterial effort related to the building of these foundations that are apparently so concrete. They are material and immaterial. They are tangible and intangible. This is kind of the notion you're trying to grasp throughout your mission on this earth. This is the most important lesson. So resting, recuperating, rejuvenating is going to bring the air elements to this equation. Now, what seems to be the most important element that so far, as this reading suggests, is missing is the water element, emotions. And we have two cards here talking about that, both in reverse, which are the Ace of Raindrops, so the Ace of Cups, rebirth. No, this is actually upright, I'm sorry. The Ace of Raindrops, upright, rebirth, and the Ten of Raindrops, fulfillment, in reverse. So with these two cards here, I'm seeing, and they were presented like that. Okay, so they are emotional pillars to your construction, and I'm reading them as missing so far. So let me explain to you how I see them. First, it seems to me like, and it makes sense with what we were saying. There are some aspects of your emotional body that needs to be rebirth. You need to totally reprogram them. How do you go about it? It's naturally going to occur as you build those internal foundations. But the problem I see here is that you sometimes resist this rebirthing process that goes little by little, depending on how old you are and what level you are in the process. Because it would be, to give a more practical example, it would be like you're trying to build this this food related project, and then you realize that you had issues coming from your childhood when it comes to, I don't know, when it comes to the appreciation of certain foods that are fundamental to the construction of your project. So you will need to face those issues. I mean, there are certain pieces, not pieces, but there are certain types of foods that you don't like. And it's normal. We have our preferences. But you will have to revisit, you have to include this in the foundations of your project, because how do we go about it? This is a conceptual problem, right? How do we go about it? If we're thinking about something that can feed the whole world, and part of a healthy relationship with food is that we enjoy it. How do we deal with the problem of not liking something if I myself am a person who doesn't like some items that maybe are cheaper, are more present in my area, are easier to cultivate in the area where I live? I would be a hypocrite if I simply said that everybody has to eat those if I'm not able to eat those, something like that. So this generates kind of an emotional impact on you that maybe you're not willing to face. And just remember that this whole food project is just an example. And it's hard for you to face this emotional impact. But then every time you face it, there's a new level of emotional stability that is built upon, and that also adds value to the project, because it makes it more considerate to every person's idiosyncrasies. It's like now the project is stronger and your legacy is stronger, because it's not just some general project or concept that's meant to solve a problem, ignoring that people are different. Now it is actually more inclusive, precisely because you started including a new layer of emotional responses that started showing. It started in yourself and you've included it. But you seem to have a certain issue with including your own emotional responses, listening to them, not discarding them, experiencing them and working through them. you know it's as if sometimes emotions shouldn't be considered, and you're disregarding the importance of the element water, of water magic in everything we do. If you started considering that negative and positive emotions you have are elements in the construction of your legacy, if you started considering them as important pieces of information in this whole project, then of course they may be hard to deal, but you would have much more. You would build this legacy in a richer way, and I'm trying not to say faster, because I don't want to encourage any defeatist mentality here. It's not about results, it's about you understanding that this is a key element. And another key element with this fulfillment in reverse is understanding that your fulfillment is also important in the project, because I see that for some of you, and these are related. I'll see if I can explain myself. I see that for some of you, there's a huge level of sorry, I can't say the word, advocacy, activism, when you consider this legacy. So you're thinking about other people. This is beautiful. But what's the problem when it comes to legacy, when we think in terms of other people? The problem is that we forget the concept of interdependency. It cannot be good only for other people, because when we conceptualize things coming from us and others, we are creating a distance that really does not exist. It's an illusion. If you put yourself in the shoes of an advocate or an activist that does not consider you as a member of the pack, so to speak, then you ignore your own fulfillment. You ignore your own experiences of joy. You are also never going to build strong enough foundations for your legacy. Your legacy cannot be built apart of your emotional fulfillment. You need to be fulfilled while building your legacy. It's going to be stronger because you're fulfilled. So remember, we were talking about how sometimes you may doubt your own passion and it flickers. We were talking about this here. Oh, I like building this foundation so much, maybe I'm just ignoring that I should be more proactive or something. No, your passion is actually very important. That you're fulfilled is actually very important. It needs to be good to you and to everyone else, because this distance, you, everyone else, really doesn't exist. It needs to be the best for everyone, every single one involved. And it needs to include every single one involved. And little by little, it expands to include more people. But you are certainly a part of this equation. So this is how the water element is brought back to your life at this point. Because you understand there are certain emotional barriers you need to consider. And then you understand that your emotional fulfillment is also a part of the foundations you're trying to build. There's no legacy without your emotional body investment. You know, you need to invest your emotional body in it. You need to feel comfortable, and more than comfortable, you need to feel fulfilled. Your fulfillment is an indicator that you're on the right track. If you need one, this is the one. It's like a gift from the universe saying, oh, I see your dedication. I see that you really want this and you're on the right track. Here, I'm going to make you feel good, you know? And I think that sometimes you forget that. This is powerful water magic, powerful emotional magic, understanding your emotions as pieces of information. So this is basically what I see for you. Giving more space for your emotions to speak with you while you're building this legacy, understanding that it's built from within and that you need to rekindle your own fire. Your home needs to be lit up always, you know, and results are not as important as what you build within, because miracles can then occur in co-creation with the universe. And as you align this truth here, defeatist thoughts are going to disappear. It also helps when you rest a lot, when you honor your needs of rest, because then the concept of the project and of the legacy you mean to live in this world comes easier, okay? This is what I see for you, and I really hope you enjoyed this deep reading. It was really deep for you. I'm still thanking the flower here helping us today in your reading. Please let me know if it applies to your situation, if you resonated with it. Such a beautiful reading. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye. Hello, last but not least, those of you who've chosen the water element. Let me show this beautiful card to you. Such a powerful image. And this is number 24. So welcome to your reading for how to balance the 4 elements in my life right now. You've chosen the water element, and I don't know if that's because you're feeling some kind of imbalance, or because you feel an attraction, special attraction to water magic, to the water element. I don't know, we'll see. But these readings so far have been very different when it comes to what they say about the elements. And if it's an imbalance, if it's there are readings congratulating people, there are readings of confirmation, different tones of readings. And in your case, what I see here is like it's something so specific. So really, if it doesn't resonate with you, maybe this is not your reading, or maybe you are operating like, I feel some people in this group are operating with a combo reading. Like I need to listen to the water and the air element, something like that. But with the 24 here, what I'm getting is a message, a very specific message. 2022, as this reading is the year when this reading is being recorded, was a number 6 year, right? Because 2022 reduces to 6. And 6, the number 6 is all about choices and discernment, okay? This topic has been on my mind for quite some time now. And with this representation of the water element, I see someone who's trying to transmute so many things at the same time. And every time, with this purple here, you see? And every time a transmutation process goes on, which means I decide, I use my third eye, intuitive hints to decide on the best possible path forward with all of the possible curveballs that are being thrown in my direction. I simply create these waves of emotional response that I don't know where they're coming from. And there's a little bit of a nostalgic vibe to that. And it's unlike anything that I have seen before in terms of being thrown to the past by these waves of emotional memory ingrained in my cells, in my body, that I then have to deal with. Okay? I didn't really want to use the word trigger, but the process that I'm seeing here is very, very similar to trigger, but trigger became a loaded word associated with abusive circumstances, when in fact we can use the word trigger to talk about anything that triggers an emotional response, be it positive or negative. So this is what I'm seeing here. I'm talking about 2022 because 2022 was like that. So for most people, for a lot of people. So if you're watching this reading more or less at the time it's being recorded, because it's going to be uploaded a little bit down the year, then you can probably relate to this idea that I am trying to make the best decision, listen to my intuition, and then as I decide, I don't have a simple confirmation in the form of a relief or in the form of that was what I was supposed to do, and etc. But I get these waves of emotions from ingrained from in my body from the past, emotions I didn't feel in quite a while, and I have to deal with that. It's like every single decision creates this emotional, not necessarily negative, but this emotional resonance, emotional flow I then have to deal with. Okay. And what they're saying here is if you're not watching in 2022, then maybe this is something very specific to your process, or maybe you're watching from another 6 year that presents the same kind of quality to it. It doesn't matter. What they're saying is you're coming from this very specific situation in which waters are flowing faster and in many different directions, and you may feel from time to time that no matter what sign we're talking about, no matter what season of the year, you feel like you're having to deal with more of an emotional baggage, and maybe even more of faster emotional cycles during the day, in which you're feeling one way in the morning and a completely different way in the afternoon and night than you used to. And it's too much, So maybe this is why you've chosen this pile. Now, I want to be very careful when I say that, because I'm trying to explain the energy that I'm channeling here. It doesn't feel like an imbalance. And I think that if you've chosen this pile, you know that. It feels like a necessary purification process. It doesn't feel like you're lost in your emotions because you're free falling. Or indulging or anything like that. It feels like a necessary cosmic process that a lot of people are going through. This is how it feels because it didn't start from an imbalance or from poor decision making or from simply not being aware of what was happening. No, it was an unveiling process. It starts in this violet core here. It starts through listening to your intuition, and then these emotions are coming for you to deal with them, for you to most of all experience them. And I think you kind of know it, but it's just overwhelming from time to time. And then precisely because these emotions need to be experienced, you need time, and you need to kind of accept the situation, even if you cannot explain it, even if you cannot explain why you're so emotional right now, even if sometimes you need to take a step back in more practical terms and simply let it be and simply experience these emotions. It is important. It's not free falling. It's not an imbalance. And now we're going to shuffle from the Prism Tarot that I love very much to see how the other elements speak to it and to see, I don't think they're actually going, let's see if they're actually going to explain why we, us, you are going about this, are going through this right now, or why you specifically in your situation have to experience, maybe I think in a lot of cases, relive this kind of emotion. Wow, lots of cards. Yeah, all the 4 cards at once. Why we have to relive these experiences or feel these emotions so intensely right now. I don't know that we're going to have an explanation because somehow I feel like we're not supposed to know, or you're not supposed to know. But how to deal with it, how to cope, right? Let's see how it goes. I also don't know why we have all of the cards turned down, but it's the way it went. It's the way I felt called to do it. It was not like that for the other groups. So the first card we have here is the 8 of Gems in reverse, hard work, talking about the influence of the element earth in this configuration here. Now, this is a very specific message. The first thing I have here is, and it's actually an explanation, an explanation and a piece of advice. As you experience these intense emotions, well, let's start with the explanation. One of the reasons why you're experiencing these intense emotions is because there was a need for you to stop over investing in improving your work. Okay, so there was an excessive investment in external results and in improving external results at all costs. So it's when we become perfectionists, it's when we become materialistic driven, it's when we become results driven in general, but with a special touch of perfectionism that leads us in very practical terms to take all kinds of courses, study all kinds of books, and never feel like we know enough, never feel like we do enough, never feel like we do what we do well enough. So the first thing I see here is that the emotions, the waters that are coming in the form of emotions, they are here to wash up the need of controlling results that was expressed as an imbalance of the earth element, of your connection to the earthly realm and the material world, okay? So, as a piece of advice, if you just surrender and I know you may be in the middle of a course, a middle of an MBA or studies, etc., and then the cards are not suggesting that you stop. But if you can go slower, if you can be more humble when it comes to the expected results for this kind of enhancement, qualifying, honing skills endeavor, this will be to your best service, okay? Because the waters that are coming, the emotions that are coming at this point, they are more important and they inform more. They are more important as an experience than anything that you could learn from a book, from any kind of more material mechanism, any kind of perfection. If you're thinking, for example, about buying new items that would make your work easier, improving, I don't know, the studio you have to do something, any kind of thing that means enhancement, it's shown up here as illusory, as an illusion at this point in the game. And the emotions that may sometimes feel frustrating, that may sometimes feel like I should be working on that new studio, I should be working on that master's, that PhD program, but I'm also sad, you know, they are actually helping you cleanse a perfectionist path. So this is the first thing. You actually balance the earth element by letting the waters speak louder, okay, at this moment. Then I'm coming here. The second thing we have, wow, is contemplation, right? Yeah, contemplation, the four of raindrops. Contemplation, yeah, because there's something in your life that's highly valuable and you're not seeing. And it is through these extreme emotional changes, these extreme tides coming to the front of your concern right now, like taking you, really taking control of you, that you're going to understand what is really important, that you're going to be able to contemplate. Like, it's like these emotions, they are actually trying to slow you down. For sure. They're trying to slow you down because you see, there's a connection here. There's no earthy intention and earth element in the world that could bring you more value at this point than contemplating your own emotions, is what they're saying. I'm going to put it in magical terms. Let's say that you're a witch, so that you understand more of the alchemizing vibes I'm getting here. There's no tea herb. Let's say that you're trying to hone your magical work and your magical skills, okay? So you're thinking about taking this rune course and buying this cauldron and acquiring these herbs and crystals, etc. And it's like they're saying there's no cauldron, utensil whatsoever, course, etc., that would make you more of a powerful witch than observing your own emotions, your own internal tides. That's why we are kind of putting you in the middle of this storm, okay, this sea storm that you're experiencing of emotions, because it's kind of like you're in the middle of a sea storm and there's a treasure chest. This is so hard for Portuguese speakers to say. There's a treasure chest that is right in front of you in emotional terms that you simply cannot contemplate unless you experience this emotional thunderstorm, emotional sea storm. Okay, it's basic. It's you need to understand your internal emotional configuration before you even know how to charge up and how to use any utensils. Okay, so your drive with the earth element here needed to be stopped into contemplation. I don't like to use the word forced, but maybe you're being pushed into contemplation by your emotions, precisely because at a certain point you made decisions that were highly intuitive and very good decisions. So don't feel like this is some kind of a punishment. I think that for most of you, you already know that this is not some kind of a punishment, but this highly emotional period is offering you time to express and to get to know your emotions. I believe I wrote in a grimoire of mine, in my book of shadows, my very own book of shadows, I wrote that in order to work water magic, you need to first of all know your emotions very well, and when they show up and how they show up, and it's kind of what's going on with you, no matter if you're a witch or not. And then we have I'm being called to show these two cards at the same time. Yeah, we have surrender upright. It has already shown for another pile in reverse. And we have take the leap in reverse. This is so beautiful, so beautiful. Because here I have both the air element and the fire element, okay? What they're saying is your fire is not going to be as strong a presence in your life right now. Because you first need to investigate your waters, okay? So your fire is being protected for when you know what to do with your waters. It's kind of the message here. Do not get scared that maybe you don't feel that extra level of encouragement to start new things. Respect that and surrender, which is the air piece of advice here. Surrender, admire, it's not admire, but marvel at the possibility of taking emotional time for yourself. You see that even if you slow things down, you are not going to lose in any way, shape, or form the control of your life, that it is possible to have some time to examine these internal deep waters even if you're not doing so much. And it is possible that you find out this contemplation is going to bring you much more value than any external source could. And even if it's hard to believe it right now, it's very necessary that you go through this process with faith, if not with passion. Okay, because passion is not possible right now. So if you start forcefully pushing actions simply because you don't feel like this work is productive and you want to see results in the world and you want to come back to a more active stance in your life, you want to come back to this perfectionism, you are going to start improvising. And probably we already had some experiences with that during this period, but it's not the moment to improvise. If you improvise at this point and you try to externalize too much, even if you're not feeling like you should, you're feeling like you should be more in your cave and dealing with your emotions, you are going to start doing some irresponsible things, you know? So this is time to go back to yourself and contemplate, surrender to the mystery of what's happening. The only explanation they gave so far is that you needed to get out of your perfectionism. You needed to get out of your more mundane view on life, and control issues are also being mentioned here, but very to like not really it's not really the focus explaining why. It's a call for surrendering to the level of emotional, to the richness of your emotional landscape, to the point in which you don't judge these emotions anymore, to the point in which you're reading these emotions as your companions in this life, as a part of yourself, as something to be examined, something to be marveled at, something to be admired, not necessarily something to base your decisions on, but something to be contemplated. If you go watch a movie and you see actors displays of emotions, you can admire that, and not only admire the technique a given actor used to perform, but also admire that expression of emotion, right? Just taking a sip of my tea here. But it's about doing the same thing for yourself as you cycle through these emotions. This is what's going to bring you back to balance. But at this point in the game, I see that you won't be able to stop these emotions from arising. This is not an imbalance. This is different. It looks like an imbalance. I feel like you can control the responses, in the sense of you can make it healthier, not to explode with the people around you. You can go to your cave and deal with these emotions in a way that's not detrimental to your relationship with other people. This is positive, but you won't be able to simply push these emotions aside and to the place where they're coming from, because they are helping you clean patterns in dealing with the other elements that were detrimental to your further development from this point on in the game. So there's nothing to understand. There's nothing. It's like the influence of the other elements of air, of fire, of earth is being subdued, so you can look more specifically and directly at these emotions, at this beautiful sea storm that you're experiencing every day, and look at it and understand that it's beautiful without judgment, to bring it back to your life. In many senses, this reading looks as a continuation of another reading we had here, that I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you which one it was, because I do not want to influence the way you're going to use this reading today, and which order you're going to watch, etc. I don't know. But it really looks like a continuation of another reading here, because it's like something you need to understand before you can move on with your project. Is that from time to time, it's like your emotions up to this point have not been invited. These emotions, these specific emotions that are showing up after you've taken some very deep and very intuitive decisions, they have not been invited to the game previously. They have not been considered truly up to this point. So now it's their time to show up and be considered, experienced. They are beautiful. They're not here to be judged. They are also a part of your divine manifestation on this earth, okay? So that's what's happening. And well, I hope this was clarifying. I really want to know how you feel about this reading. Please let me know in the comment section if you feel comfortable to do so. And leave a like, share this video if you feel like doing so. I really hope this process gives fruit, bears fruit. And I hope to see you in my next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.